destroy it. No, contact!
Hold the line!
5, 2, 3, 9. Yep, direct hit, keep firing.
Hello everyone and welcome to No Man's Land. This is Razor and I'm joined as usual by Avitus and Dark Leftovers. Guys, do you want to say hi?
Hello, comrade.
What's up? Good to be here.
Nice.
Indeed
Okay,
it is.
let's just jump right into it, shall we guys? We're gonna talk about the DevBlog that was recently released.
Very
Yes.
interesting. Very interesting indeed.
A lot of nice pictures. You know, I didn't do much reading, but I do love pictures.
I think an interesting point to bring up as well is what was discussed in the first No Man's Land episode, I believe, with towns and like how displeased I was with towns in their current state, and I am overjoyed to be seeing this coming out. Like, what is on these pictures? We're going to go through each picture and discuss what's in the picture, but before we do that, we're going to have a little fun section every week in which you can send in your videos. If you really want to, you can get in contact with Razor through the Foxhole Discord or through the 82DK Discord. You can send in your armored car fails. So we'll be playing them over as we're talking, and then we'll go over the pictures individually. So I think the first thing that we need to discuss in this is that in a lot of the pictures there's evidence of hardcover like being a lot more prominent in streets and stuff like that. So when I'm talking about hardcover, I'm talking about things that are actually part of the environment, like wrecked cars, for instance, or maybe sandbags that are part of the environment. I see a couple of crates laying about in the streets a lot more than usual, and I think the introduction of hardcover being like indestructible, sort of like maybe there's a sandbag bunker in Abandoned Ward, for instance, facing each bridge, north and south, that can't be taken out by mortars as part of the hard environment. So that's something that's going to be, has to be overcome to get into the town. And I think the introduction of something like that would be very, very good. Defensive positions that aren't necessarily destroyed by vehicles moving through the town and stuff like that.
So looking at the first picture here, the first grade one that has the Warden trolley, dispatched with a bunch of colonials occupying this crossroad junction. Just, I mean, this might be a random thing, but one of the first things that caught my eye is like there's a fucking tub, like right on the top, just like a tub, like managed to just fall down perfectly, like laying down. Don't know why, but it just, I'm looking at it like, wow, interesting. I'm sorry.
No, it's it's a nice. It's the first time I saw it, to be honest. So nice catch there.
One second, I'm struggling to find the picture.
It's
On
the
the very top.
and the very
first
top,
one.
yeah, with the AC in it. That's the first thing I saw. Just visualizing it getting destroyed.
Like the concepts of it is perfectly fine. I'm looking at it, but it's like, from all the World War II games and all movies and stuff that over time we watched, and just thinking like, why set up shop at the center when you could just there's different places you can go. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you're saying, but I love the aesthetic with like, and I'm really, really glad that they're going with they talk about in the devlog about what the wardens are fighting for. So they're definitely going down the path of having the buildings being warden architecture rather than colonial, and the colonials are obviously invading this land. So like the train car has a warden symbol on the side of it, for instance, which I think is a really cool detail. And if we get to see that the colonials have different architecture to the wardens, I think that's going to be great as well, because it sets aside, like, for instance, colonial garrison houses might be built a little bit differently to warden garrison houses and things like that. It might be not the case at all, but I think in future it could be a really, really cool thing if they include and the main thing is making the towns bigger. If they make the towns bigger, I can't remember what the name of the town is. It's in North, one of our port bases. It's near one of the port bases, it's a harbour. And I remember,
Port of Rhyme.
yes, that's the one. Absolutely amazing town, brilliant, and it's one that we really, really want to fight over. But because of its position, it never gets fought over.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and I think there might be a port base next to it now, but there never used to be. But if we can have more towns looking like that and detail with, oh, I love the different levels to towns as well. When they've got certain ones built up high, and then you've got houses down low as well. I think that's excellent. I want to see more of that.
The thing in general, I think it's gonna basically make or break this town revamp is the effort they're gonna put in solving bugs, right? Because I think it's very important. I love new content. Everybody loves new content, right? It's what
Yeah,
basically
absolutely.
keeps you going and keeps you not
Yep.
burning out. But at the same time, fixing the issues that arise is like paramount to me, at least. So
Yeah. I get I understand your concern, because this is obviously going to be a huge, huge update. If they're really getting rid of the buildings and maybe revamping towns and stuff like that, it's going to be huge because people are going to have to relearn the map completely as well. But the bugs that arise, I agree, need to be squashed as quickly as possible before moving on to the next update. Because new content is great and all that, but it's not so great when you're getting new content and it's bugged to hell and it stays that way until they come back to it 6 months later. You know what I mean? Like the gunboat, for instance, that was we'll get onto that later on, but that went through a change without getting its bugs fixed and stuff like that. So I'd really like to see them take their time with this update and make sure that it goes well, basically, and gets the bugs out of it as quickly as possible.
One thing I would probably say, and this is just a rough speculation, but I have this like feeling in the back of my mind that the towns will have mainly nothing but garrison houses inside. I know if we scroll down, you can see a picture that has a lot of buildings with planks,
Mm,
and it's embedded in my mind when I play Foxhole. If I see a building with planks, it's a garrison house. It's gonna be shooting at me or the enemy, and it's like, I mean, how do I try to say? Like, I would just love just going through a town and like not get shot, but still have enemy,
yeah,
opposition in there.
I understand what you're saying. This goes back to something that I was talking about last episode, where we were talking about urban combat and how cool it would be to have a skirmish map that was just entirely a city. With parks and stuff all over the place, so you could build fobs at these parks, but not much defences in the town, and it would really test the skills of infantry over just having mass defences in somewhere. So you'd have to set your infantry up to hold a street. You might have a sniper looking down a street, and you can only do that with a really bit like a very a larger town scale than we have right now. I mean, Abandoned Ward's the capital, and I believe Abandoned Ward is about the size, with Plaza included, is about the size that a normal town needs to be. The capital needs to be far, far bigger, but that's just my opinion. What I would really, really, really like to see is not just garrison houses put in the towns. Yeah, have garrison houses, that's perfectly fine, but have think on a bigger scale. Have a large building that can't be destroyed, that you can enter and you need to clear out to basically take the town, or to get the enemy presence out of the town at least. So maybe there's, I don't know, a huge manor house at the centre of town near the town hall, or maybe it is the town hall, and within it there might be, I don't know, several rooms that you might need to clear or something like that. I think the garrison houses at the moment are like the only inside that is like anywhere near being interesting. Really, there's not a great deal going on in other garrison and enterable buildings, I should say. And what I would really like to see is more enterable buildings with more interesting interiors to fight within.
Yeah. Well, I genuinely, think that's a great idea, and I really hope we're gonna get some more, I don't know, like we discussed in the past, maybe like, because we already have forts, right? Maybe some more elaborate forts where you can actually enter, or even a fortress, why not, that you could actually enter. I guess
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
that's a bit down the road, but the concept is still very, very attractive, you know?
Well, so as the concept that I think of, I don't know if you know, but Edinburgh Castle is pretty much in the centre of the city, and it's surrounded by the city. And I think that would be really cool to have an abandoned ward, have like a castle structure that's like maybe it hasn't been obviously part of this war, but it's it's old, and it could be rebuilt, and it's like a last stand area for the forces inside a band ward if they get overrun or something like that. I think that would be really cool to implement and fight over.
Yeah.
I, didn't they try to do something like that in Westgate? Like where the bulwark is at the very end, where the coast is, that giant, not castle, but the giant fort-looking structure.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean, I
they
haven't been there in ages, but that's
along the right lines, but I mean, it's still thinking rather small. Even though the fort itself, it's cool to look out from the outside. It looks cool to look at from the outside. It's a cool thing to have built and have a new map and things like that, and it's useful when you're fighting in that region. However, within that structure is very little going on. I mean, it's just a room. There's no cover. There's no you're not going to be fighting over it because there's very little. Um, like I'd love to see something like that, but like maybe a little bit bigger. It doesn't have to be much bigger surface area wise, um, and have walls that you can basically climb on top of and shoot down at. Maybe a gate that's closable or something like that.
going down with the urban combat subject. This is just me. I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I feel like garrison houses or all structures should have like three tiers on destruction. Like the first one is like the normal. It's still standing. Second tier, when you first knock it down, the structure is half destroyed, or like any AI that you have is offline, but you can still use it as cover. You can still enter the building, or like some of the environment of the actual building itself is changed. Maybe you can go inside the bottom floor, and also there's a ramp going up to the top floor. You get what I mean? And then the
Yeah, yeah.
third and final is just completely leveling it to just nothing but rubble. And it's just that.
Well, I think what I would like to see more is when garrison houses go down, they're still enterable. So, the garrison inside has been killed, but the house itself is still standing and still enterable. It may be it's harder to get a shot out the windows because of the rubble or something like that. But I think if as long garrison houses add an element, especially like when you're attacking a town and you capture a garrison house over a prominent area. Sometimes you don't want to destroy the garrison house because you get in such a good line of sight and you're covering so many angles from the enemy trying to get back to the front. For instance, if you have a few riflemen in the garrison house, they can do a hell of a lot of damage when attacking or defending a town. So what I would really like to see is garrison houses being more of a permanent thing, and the shootable element of the garrison house just being something that is coming with it being built. So the the integrity of the house itself wouldn't be compromised by it being destroyed. Only the garrison within would be killed.
That sounds like something I could get behind. Um, just so we keep the discussion progressing, I was looking over the images and one is very interesting because you can see from the truck uh, basically a soldier firing his sidearm out the window. Now I know all of this is prototype for right, like it's just sketches and stuff like that. It's not something that will get into the game. But how important do you guys think that would be in the game? Like, especially because of Logi and everything, you know, the ability of the passenger basically to shoot out of the window. That sounds really, really cool to me. You know what I mean? Like,
With it, yeah,
Well,
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
I don't want to mess with the wrong people and they just drive up and just pop me. You know what I mean? Like,
and it's like
wrong town, motherfucker. Bang, bang, bang.
a thing I would always want to see more in Foxhole, in my opinion, is more of the stuff you would be able to do in a war, right? Like in a conflict situation, you would use it every and any trick you would have, right? Like firing out the window or from you know, even from behind, even from inside of the truck, right? If you have soldiers inside, maybe they can fire behind, right? As the truck passes, you have people behind you. You can fire at them. It's just like, you know, the
I
way.
think, yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah, I think, yeah, I can't see anything wrong with that. Sidearms are probably going to be the only option for that, though. I wouldn't like to
Oh,
think that
absolutely, yeah, yeah. I mean,
people were shooting rifles and things like that.
no, if we go for that, then we might as well, like, I don't know, have a Jeep with HMG mounted on it, but that should be its own thing, right?
Oh,
Like,
Like, I've been trying to say this. I've been going on about, but like, you know, I'm not gonna make this anything crazy right now. But I'm just saying, like, you should be able to just change vehicles and just like, you know, you first unlock the, you know, the utility Jeep, then you remove the roof, you remove the fourth seat, and then you just add the, you know, the HMG on the top, and it's just there you go.
well, I think there should be, you know, like how foxholes can be upgraded to gun nests. Then I don't like. Perhaps vehicles could work the same way. Like bikes could be upgraded to have an SMG-like gun on the side carriage, for instance. I think that would be really, really cool. And you could have, like you said, Jeeps with HMGs on the back, which would be excellent.
One thing is I like how you talk about the picture, Razor, about the warden coming out shooting the pistol, and I'm like looking at the other side of the coin, where I'm seeing Colonial just standing with the bullet-fed HMG,
Yeah,
just like spraying down. I mean, that just looks fucking amazing, you know.
yeah, it does. Yeah.
Just the idea of that, and like, you know, I know currently, and this is just, I feel like some of the weapons, some of the early model weapons in the game definitely need some new love and a new touch. I know it's not really crucial, and you know, we can make do, but I feel like, I don't know, just like looking at that and just the concept of just standing, just spraying, not really aiming to, you know, for accuracy, but just the fact that you're just spraying down, you know, an area just seems very fucking awesome to me.
There was a picture that I wanted to discuss with the shields in the street. I don't know if you've seen them. It's the one with the HMG on the street, the FMG, and the AT turret down the bottom of the street. You
Oh
see
yeah.
those two iron shields there? That's quite interesting. Um, if those are like, I don't know, buildable or perhaps they can be carried or something by someone, I think that would be awesome to have that in the game. Equipable sort of shields that can be put into a formation and push an enemy line with them. I think that's an excellent thing. I think that should definitely be in the game. You know, there'd obviously be tactics against them, like you know, they'd be very susceptible to getting grenades thrown over the shield walls and stuff like that. And I think it would be an excellent addition to the game and add a lot of tactical play if they can do it right. That is. Um, but I think that, yeah, and another thing that we need to talk about in this picture is the Mortarman. It's a very, very interesting picture of the garrison house, and there's a Mortarman set upstairs with sandbags around him, and that's great. That's just awesome, and that's
Just
the type of thing where I'm saying, and enterable buildings with utilities like that is just, it's amazing. And I'd really like to see more of that going on.
And just because we're here and like I also love that mortar guy up there, I just need
Oh, you're
to
telling me.
I just need to come a little back to the point of bugs and stuff because you know we have the climbable thing, we talked about that in the past.
Yep.
I hope, I have my fingers crossed this does not turn into everybody on a roof, you know what I mean, like
Yeah.
I really
Yeah.
really hope so because
That's
I
a crucial thing that needs to be like stopped. Like I understand, and I mean it's one of those things. If you know how to do it, and if it's not considered an exploit, I mean, you know,
Do you know what I would rather them do? I would rather them have like planks going across the streets between the roofs. I would rather have them have ramps going up to the buildings that perhaps it's like a rickety ramp that have just been put up hastily by some soldiers or something like that, and actually make the roofs a viable
yeah
like
yeah
place to fight, where you can get up at certain locations, and then you're part of the uh, the network of connected roofs in a town. That's fine. That's completely fine. It's just I don't like it when people are climbing in buildings and they get into a position in which, you know, it's incredibly hard for people to kill them, even with grenades. You know, you need a perfectly cooked grenade to kill these people on top of buildings sometimes. And I think if they just went full scale with it, where they had these ramps and things going up to the rooftops and having positions built on top of rooftops to fight over, I think that would be not only it wouldn't just solve the climbing issue, it would be incredibly cool as well.
Yeah, like you said, I can totally agree with like if they make it accessible for everybody by using planks or any sort of way to make it, you know, basically a fair fighting ground, then I would see
yeah.
nothing against
Instead
it.
of just like trying to just, you know, like press space and try to like hopefully that you can clip and climb on this like, you know, invisible wall to like get up to this position. You keep doing it to the point where you're on the roof. I mean, it's just, I mean, there's always been an issue when there's an enemy on top of a roof, especially you have no way to really get up to him.
So
It's,
yeah, I know.
I'm on, I can see the both sides. I can see both sides of it perfectly pretty well. I would rather have like what you guys said, you know, if anyone and everyone can access it without anything like, you know, like some sneaky way to fucking get up, it's perfectly fine, you know.
And I think with we're going to just briefly touch on something that I really want to talk about. Um, I had the opportunity to use a sniper in the zombie mode that we just got to play, and I have to admit it's not as bad as I thought it was going to be. It's nowhere near as bad as I thought it was going to be.
So
It's going to take real practice and patience to use that thing.
one thing I want to say first off, shame on you for using a sniper rifle during a fucking zombie.
It
you
was the first thing I
advised
got my hands on.
you
I got
advised against it, remember?
I did advise against it, yeah. But it's the first thing I got my hands on. I was like, right, well, I might as well. Um, yeah,
So I've got some practice with it, and I've been fighting against and with it on skirmishes when they released it. I agree, it was not as bad as I initially and at what we initially thought about it. But also one thing to consider on the skirmishes is the last thing you unlock. So
oh really?
what that means is by the time you get them, one side's already losing, like flat out. So there's like no, it has no real, what's the word I'm looking for? There's no real impact. You get what I mean? It's like shooting a
Yeah,
dying horse. You know, it's not gonna save or do anything. You know.
yeah.
It's
So,
yeah.
I mean, they'll get it sorted out on the tech tree somewhere. I would think it's what they need to do is just make sure that its damage against vehicles is lowered considerably. If they do that and make sure that the shots hardly damage vehicles, then I can't see an issue with it being introduced early war. Well, early to medium.
Yeah.
Well, I would say like the damage wise, just keep it the same as like little more damaging than the rifle for compared to vehicles. You know, like even a rifle against a truck, it still takes a
I
few
mean,
watts.
for how that it aims and stabilizes, I think having a one-shot down isn't too bad, to tell you the truth. Because, I mean, even after you fire one shot, the reticle is all the way out and it takes like 5 seconds to come right back in. So if you shoot somebody, you're only going to get to shoot them once, because if you shoot and miss, they're just going to run away. If you shoot and hit them and it takes more than one shot to take them down, then, you know, you're not going to kill them again because they're just going to run away bleeding and you're going to lose your shot anyway.
Yeah, like on skirmishes, I've been in many scenarios where like a sniper missed a shot and I saw where the fire where it came
Tracer.
from, and I just like charged the tracer, yeah, and I just started like zigzagging and like going towards that location.
Honestly, that's the, like, you can easily take out snipers.
Mhm.
Easily. If like, a sniper has to be working as a sniper team. A two-person sniper team is going to have to be a real thing. One with an SMG, one with a sniper rifle. Because as soon as you know the sniper's location, you can just run straight at him, and there's very, very little chance of him hitting you while moving. Because to move the reticle is just like, it goes completely off as soon as you move it. So
Can I make one statement for any aspiring snipers out there? Please do not carry more than 2 fucking clips. You can probably do 3 or 4, but I'm tired of fucking killing people and they have like 10 mags on them. It's like you only got like 2 shots and you still died, and it's like, what do you expect? It's like, I understand that you're gonna think, oh, I'm gonna camp for days and kill a lot of people. Like, this is not the reality currently. Almost every single sniper I've killed has around 10 mags on him at least, and it's like, oh my god.
I mean, that's true of any gun, though. I mean, the amount of people that I kill or backpacks that I check where people have just got an absorbent amount of ammunition and they wonder why FOBs and town halls run out of ammunition. I come across people with like 12 mags of SMG ammo and things like that, which...
Well, it's one thing I like to point out is that in Foxhole, ammunition has no weight. Like, there's no real weight value to it, if you get what I mean. Like,
very little.
like for example, like you can literally have 100 HMG mags. Sure, you could be encumbered as hell, but I mean, if you're in a gun nest, you know what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
nothing's stopping you for a while, and like, but if you do die, that's 100 mags right there gone.
Well,
And like,
it's not just that you have to think about as well. It's the 3 other HMGs that are running out of ammunition because you've got it all, and then the other flanks fall, and then your gun nest falls. You know what I mean?
this just may be me being me, but I feel like if you have you can pull ammo in a truck and it should stack perfectly fine. But if you pull it from an infantry, it only takes up 1 slot, and maybe I don't know, maybe you can have like max up to 2 mags per.
I think it stems from how people approach Foxhole. Now, Foxhole is one thing above all others. That's a persistent war. That's the selling point of the game. It's a persistent war, and you've got to play it as a persistent war. If you're I want to say a quote unquote serious Foxhole player, or someone that wants to play the game and win, your side to win, then you have to think about the team as a whole. You can't just think about yourself killing colonials or killing wardens. You've got to, how many kills can I get today? It's not what the game's about at all. It's about making sure that you play your small part in the large effort of the war. So, and everything has repercussions. If you steal a Logi truck, for instance, perhaps you've stolen a Logi truck from a clan that was needing to fill it with artillery shells to take a town, and now they don't have that, and and then the enemy advances and pushes them off that town. Everything has ripples and effects that you just cannot foresee on Foxhole. So even something as simple as taking 10 mags out of a fob and then going instantly losing it on the front line can have a massive effect on the war. Like, that extra 5 clips of rifle ammo, you might not think it's a lot, but the other 10 guys don't think it's a lot as well, and before you know it, everybody's run out of rifle ammunition, and you're fighting the enemy with pistols. You know what I mean? So when you play in Foxhole, above everything else, think about the team, and play your team, your faction, rather than just playing, and thinking about yourself as a soldier. Think about the entire war effort and how efficient you can be within that war effort. Because if you don't, and you play it like any regular shooter, then you're going to drain resources that could be valuable on the
You're gonna
front line.
drain ammo and you're gonna drain shirts.
Yep.
The two
Yep.
very most important things in the fucking game. Ammo and shirts. And those, if you're just gonna be like, fuck the team, I'm just gonna run and gun, you're just gonna be costing. You're gonna make the people that do Logi's life a lot more worse. And it's just frustrating to, I mean, if you're gonna play Foxhole, you should always have the mentality of being a team player. No matter how much someone else can be an asshole to you, there's always someone else that'll probably be, very thankful for being a teammate.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think we've gone off on a bit of a tangent here. We should probably get back onto the subject. I think are we done with the cities now?
I mean, I feel
think-
pretty good about that. We got everything.
Yeah,
pretty
yeah,
much
me too.
what we wanted to say.
We can come
And
back
I'm
to
glad that
them.
they're taking.
We can come back to them
Yeah.
once they get implemented, right? So we can, give-
Absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely.
For the execution, yes.
yeah. Yeah, go ahead, Avitus. We promised them that today we're going to talk about Navy, and
Yes,
more
he's
importantly
been-
about the
Angsty ever since. He's always
Yeah,
this
gunboat.
holds a very personal heart to
Yeah,
this.
yeah, it is. It's deep down in the fields for me. Okay, so I want to set the stage first. So I don't know if any of the guys listening can remember, but I'm sure a lot of you will, because it's hard to forget for some people. Old Fahrenheit Coast. Now, Old Fahrenheit Coast was split up into three separate islands. Think of Fahrenheit Coast right now, but with another landmass on the other side of the map, basically where the ocean is now. And there was still the waterway, but there was no bridges going across it. And in that map, I sank not just colonial gunboats, but entire fleets, basically, that were getting ready to invade our island and stuff like that. And it was great. It was awesome. I had so much fun playing the old iteration of the gunboat. Now, the gunboat back then, the model was crap. It looked like a colonial gunboat to us, but it on the front was the main cannon. The guy was outside of the main cannon. There was no protection for him. On the back, there was the rear gunner with 14.5. There was a bugged in, a little bit jittery, but could still be fired. And then you had walkways around the main cabin in the middle, which soldiers could actually get onto. Now, in 82DK, what we were doing is we had people on the gunboat as Marines. We'd drop them off at dock sides if there was colonial gunboats there to steal them or whatever. And then all of that got taken out with the new gunboat. We lost our walkways on the side, and the biggest thing was they moved the main cannon from the front of the ship to the back of the ship. Now, what that means for gunboat play is that now the person running away has the advantage over the person pursuing. So whereas before the advantage was to the person pursuing to take out the person retreating, now it's the other way around. So what gunboats have a tendency of doing now is your first shot, if it misses, then you're pretty much knackered, because the other gunboat, all it has to do is start running away, wait till you follow, and then take you out. So it's a lot less down to skill and maneuvering now, and it's more what I tend to see a lot more of now is because gunboats tend to get very, very close to each other now, trying to reckon up the shots on each other's ships. So what tends to happen now is that gunboats will just get into an FMG slog, a 14.5 slog, where they're just shooting each other's ships, and it comes down to numbers, like 2 Warden ships come across 1 colonial ship. It's an easy win. No matter how skilled the colonial crew is, the 2 Warden ships are going to take it out. So it's turned less into a skill-based fight, and now it's turned more into a numbers fight. So 2 gunboats will take out 1, or whoever fires first and hits the most shots will win. Basically, it's really taken the heart and soul out of gunboats for me, and I have a lot less fun playing them now with the new iteration. And I think a lot of that has got to do with like the old gunboats. If you hit the first shot, then you could take out the main gunner, and and that was a really big pivotal thing in order to do that, and now that's been completely taken out. So I'd really like to see gunboats looked at again, and I really like the cannon changing back around to the front, because at the moment it's highly based on whoever basically runs away first gets the advantage, and I don't think that's fair.
What about just because I know you can't aim completely forwards, but what about just having it so you can just have the full 360 rotation on the main like artillery?
Yeah, that could work as well. I mean, that's something that they've taken out as no. I think that's always been the case. I'm
There's
not
always
sure. I can't remember.
there's always had that little like you weren't able to
Yeah,
always aim.
that blind spot. Yeah, I know what you're saying. But yeah, I could see that working with the gun being able to be turned around. But I think they really went in the wrong direction with the gunboat. They look cool. Don't get me wrong. The ships themselves look awesome compared to how they used to look. But I really think that they did sea combat damage by changing that weapon system around from front to rear.
For me personally, the deal breaker was removing the actual deck of the ship. I think that, like you said, that was very, first of all, entertaining, right? Because like even if you weren't
Oh
part
yeah,
of the actual crew, you could still hitch a ride and stuff like that, or you could, as you said, drop some people over in a port. You know,
well we
they,
had. I
yeah,
don't know if you can remember Razor, but we had a team of people that was specially, they trained themselves, they practiced. One,
yeah. I remember what you're saying. Like the,
yeah, yeah. We had a team of people that were trained to be on the gunboat and to go onto enemy docks, destroy enemy barges, destroy enemy assets, then get back onto the gunboat or steal an enemy vehicle. We had teams of people that used to love doing that, and they were very, very, very good at it. And it's just a shame that that's been taken away. I mean, fair enough. You can still do it with, I don't know, maybe you get a barge or an APC, you can pull
Don't
people or something like that. But it's not
barges
the
are
same.
speaking of the barges, they did like it's a really undercover nerf that they did with it, where you can only carry up max to 6 infantry on a fucking barge.
Yeah, it's a huge nerf.
And it's
Huge nerf.
that's and I understand like why would you transform and return a barge? Like fair enough, but I mean like it's
I
supposed to be
understand
like a
why
mass.
they did it. I understand why they did it completely. Um, but what we used to have to do is we had when we on the old going back to the old Fahrenheit coast, we had like infantry barges, and these infantry barges used to carry like 30 people over the ocean on one barge, and the amount of people that used to fall off from like desync or people colliding with each other was just ridiculous. So I can understand why they did it, and I think it was a good move, to tell you the truth. And it really puts more emphasis on APCs. You see a lot more APCs used now in naval invasions and stuff like that, rather than before where it was just pretty much all barges. Gunboats, I'm seeing less and less gunboats, and they're becoming less and less prominent in the war. We do have people in our faction that only play gunboats, and those guys do an absolutely excellent job. And I'm sure the Colonials have their own specialist navy as well. But at the moment, I'm losing faith in the in sea combat. That's why I've went more into tanks now. But I would really like to see in the future a lot more naval things coming out, and maybe the gunboat getting looked at again, or perhaps a new type of ship or something like that that could be really cool and have people on it.
I do agree, and like they should strengthen the Navy capacity, because I mean, one of the most things, if you don't have any boats in the water, is that the enemy is able to do pretty much anything they want. They're able
Well,
to send.
I think what's going to happen in the future, I can really see this happening, is I think the next ship that's going to come out, I could be wrong, but I think the next ship that's going to come out is probably going to be something like a mine placer or something like that, where underwater mines can be placed or something like that. Because I think that with the inclusion of that, it could be, it could take away from like mass naval invasions happening without anybody there late at night or something like that. Because if you have naval mines, then you can protect areas of coastline very, very easily. Like perhaps these mines might cost a lot of armats to make and explosives and stuff like that. But once they're down, and especially if they're placed properly, they can do a hell of a lot of damage to invading fleets and stuff like that. They would probably have to do something along the lines of friendly fire with them, because you know
Yeah.
there's always people out there that are going to get their hands on one and put them in a dock or something like that. But I think that's the next step in Navy. All these people asking for huge dreadnoughts and stuff like that, forget about it. It's a long way away.
I wouldn't go for huge dreadnoughts, but coastal defense always sounded better to me personally. Like
Yeah.
we used to use howitzers for this. You guys remember? Dark Master remember for
Oh, I
sure,
remember.
and it was very very
I
fun. I think a dedicated gun, not necessarily buildable. You know what I mean? It could be only in ports and part of the world environment, so you're not able to
So you're
spam
talking
them.
about you're talking about like what the devs have talked about before, like a unique structure sort of thing.
Exactly. Yeah.
To certain towns. Yeah, I can see that working. Yeah, maybe have one in Umbral, one in Westgate, and then one in our port regions. In
Port
our
of Rhyme can have
one.
one. Yeah.
No, I don't think they should be in port towns. I think they should be in
Port.
like
talking about the HQ
one of
ones.
the coastal towns on the one of the coastal towns on the map, because I think it should be something that defends a specific town, and I think there should only be about 4 of them in the entire game. But speaking about ports and things like that, something that really surprises me is they've gone to an effort to make sure that enemy factions can't enter your port base. But what they've completely seemed to have overlooked is enemy ports themselves are completely open to attack. If an enemy gunboat comes across your cargo ship at dock, or this cargo ship's been at dock for 3 hours, your logi team's been working on it all day to stock it up ready for the op on the night, and just a gunboat with a couple of guys in it comes across it and destroys it. I don't think that's fair to the colonials or the wardens. I don't think that someone should have to spend 6 hours stocking up a cargo ship to have it destroyed at dock. I mean, fair enough if it's out in the ocean and it gets a couple of colonial gunboats or a couple of warden gunboats come across it and destroy it. Fair enough. That's not something that I have a problem with at all, because that's how things go. But in port bases, I think they should have something like a walled harbour, for instance, with undestroyable AT guns on them or something like that, to prevent enemy ships from coming into and near your port. Because if at the moment they don't have that, and entire fleets can be destroyed at dock, and it's just not good enough.
I can see what you mean, because I remember every time we had that kind of an operation, we basically had to have 3 people in a gunboat just sitting there and watching us, you know, do logi for
I
hours,
remember.
and it was
I
painful
remember.
because like I can imagine how boring it was for them, right? Just sitting there and
Yeah.
not being able to help because they had to be there ready to go in case we get attacked, right?
Then
Yeah, I
there's
mean,
the sheer amount of stress when that one enemy gunboat that snuck past. And I remember this distinctively, like when it stuck past, it started destroying the like cargo ships and the barges that we built, and it's just like heart wrenching, because
It is.
I
Yeah.
remember we needed an APC that was loaded with HEs to deal with this.
Yep. That's the
and
time I'm talking about, dude.
yeah, like I remember that wasn't a fun time to be on Foxhole, because it was like 3 hours of just straight preparing, and not including the time that it took to print out these fucking cargo ships, and getting all this all ready and supplies handled. And, ugh, it's just heart wrenching, and it's just sometimes I forget that Foxhole can just really just do this and just make you just really just not want to fucking play it.
Yeah. I know exactly where you're coming from, dude. And that's why I think they really need to introduce the walled-off harbours as quickly as possible. Because if they don't, then that type of. I'm not sure how often it happens because of those certain times I've been sort of put off Navy, as well as the things about the gunboat. So that's why I hardly do any naval invasions anymore. And if I do, they're normally with other people, someone else leading them, and I'll just tag along, sort of thing. We had a very successful one yesterday, actually. Very cool. But moving on, I think I've got everything I need to say about Navy, guys. Anything else?
I think we could talk a little bit about the tech tree, if you guys want. It's just something that I feel like it's very. I mean, it's there, but I feel like the first iteration, it's fair. It does its job, I guess, but I feel like there is no, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, the tech tree doesn't split nearly enough where it should, Where, for example, if you want tech for tanks, you'll be costed somewhere else. You know what I mean? If you get the drift of what I'm trying to say with the tech tree.
Yeah, I get what you're saying.
Because like right now, everything is built in a linear path where you pretty much your end goal is essentially tanks.
Yeah, I mean, I think the tech tree is going to get tweaked over time, and I think the fact that you're researching it as something and it takes away from something else, I think that's pretty much the purpose of the tech tree. You have to make those decisions. But what I would really like to see is them implement something like a vote system or something like
Exactly
that.
my
where-
thought.
Yeah, like the entire faction chooses can vote on the next tech. So
It gets locked to that vote.
yeah, and it gets locked to that vote. So for instance, I don't know, if you have I don't know, I'm just going to say something simple. If you had to pick something between like artillery gun or tank, the fact when the last tech, I don't know, satchel charges or something like that. I don't know the tech tree that well, but like satchel charges get unlocked from the last vote, and then it goes on to three new choices. Or two new choices. You've got a field artillery gun, or you've got a tank. And you click on the tank on your screen, and then everybody, the votes get counted up, and then it's like, right, the tank is next to be teched, or the artillery gun is next to be teched, and then you can put your tech parts straight into the tech plant, and it just goes straight into the artillery gun because that's into the tank because that's the next voted tech, basically. And I think that would add sort of it would solve a lot of issues, in my opinion, especially in skirmish, because in skirmish it's all about APCs. If you can get APCs teched, and you know what you're doing with APCs, and you've got a few people that know what they're doing, you can really do a lot of damage to the enemy with APCs. But I've seen it where barges, and I know barges are free now, but they used to have to be teched, and I've seen barges teched over APCs, and it's like really annoying.
It's a mechanic we desperately need, in my opinion, the voting system. So, right now we're wasting tech all around the tech tree because there's no clear direction we can head on. And I just want to expand on this just for a bit because we are talking about tech. I would want something similar to that extent for facilities for anything that asks for tech parts or
Upgrade parts.
upgrade parts, because like at the moment, think about it, like you have no clue what is getting teched where. So many instances where like two towns that are literally next to each other get the same facilities unlocked for no good reason. And I know there's gonna be always a problem about basically having the enemy faction spy on you and see where you have your stuff and that. But at the moment, it's like everybody's in the dark, right? It doesn't matter what faction
Yeah.
you are. You have no clue what's happening. It's just, I
I
mean,
think
we're
I
lucky.
think that I think that's
You know?
something that will. I mean, if they were to implement a voting system with tech, I think that would be something that would sort of evolve down the line to do what you've done, saying what you just said there. But I think they need to start with the main tech
Absolutely,
tree
yeah.
and then move on to maybe voting for town facilities and stuff like that.
I mean, don't get me wrong. We're very, very lucky. I consider ourselves very, very lucky because we have the manpower, to do what we need to do,
Yeah.
especially in
Yeah,
the
especially
start of
opening
the game.
stages of the war.
We can
You
have,
see,
yeah.
it's hard. It's always hard for us to contemplate because I've always played with 82 DK on Foxhole. Pretty much the day I got it, I joined the clan. So I've always had that manpower behind manpower. That was gonna sound wrong. I've always had that power behind me. That those numbers to really do something impactful. But like the people that are playing on their own or with just a couple of friends, you know what I mean? It's a lot harder to do something meaningful in that instance. And I think we've been almost boiled in our experience on the game because we've always had that amount of manpower and stuff behind us. But we're always speaking. I mean, the colonial clans have really started stepping up their game in terms of numbers and organisation as well. So I'd really like to see, among other things, like an actual clan system in the game to help organise tags and things like that in game.
Yeah, it would help with everything from from where to put the tech parts to well to put the utility upgrades and such. And in my personal opinion,
But
it also solves a very big problem, which is spying in general and faction moving. Once you're in an organized team, you tend to be less interested into griefing and stuff like that because it's
I
gonna,
mean,
you know what I mean?
I think what they need to do is they need to take a big step, and this is a big step. Now, I understand the thing with spying and stuff like that, but what I strongly believe is that when you get the game, you should have a couple of days to choose your faction, and then that is your faction. You can't change faction again. So for the or maybe every 10 wars you can change your faction or something like that. You know what I mean? Instead of just having the ability to change factions at will every war, uh, have a set side to join, and that would eliminate things like neutral clans because neutral clans for me are worse than colonials, and I've said this a number of times because neutral clans will tip the scales of a war, and they tend to join a side altogether, or it's very rare they'll split down the middle. And I think if they can get that out of the game and they can have people actually join a faction and stay in a faction, I think that's going to be great for the game. For instance, like a game like PlanetSide. I don't know who's played PlanetSide, but on PlanetSide you create a character and you join the Terran Republic or you join the spandex people or I don't know
the furries.
The new conglomerate or something like that, and that is your set faction. You create your character, you get your progression on that character, and I think that goes back to things like earnable rewards. that we were talking about a couple of episodes ago, where we're talking about progression trees to get like different hats and things like that with your rank. And I think if that was locked to a character within a faction, I think people would make sure that they were sticking with that faction a lot more. And this has gone off on a lot of a tangent
Yeah.
from tech parts.
I just
So I'll
wanna,
stop now.
I just wanna point out, just for the fun of it, that if what you are suggesting would happen, I can assure you all the neutrals would buy a second account, so they can basically.
Yeah.
I
Well,
can assure you.
it's a win-win. It's win-win then, isn't it?
I
They
guess
have
so.
to spend twice. I mean, by all means, it's like, hey,
If you want to get a second account, you go right ahead. You know what I mean? That's just,
Yeah.
you can't do anything against that, dude. That's just
No. I was just wanted to point it out. Yeah.
I mean, some people do have second accounts to do fucking logistics.
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
To be fair, if someone came up to me and said, "Oh well, I play Warden and Colonial because I got 2 accounts," I'd be like, "Fair enough. You've given the devs another £15 to make the game that I love." So
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, make it
I see. I see the value in what you say. Yeah. Back to the tech though, Dark. You wanna take us back to the actual tech tree?
The actual tech tree, there's nothing really much to say. I mean, I think you guys nailed it pretty much. It's like, I mean, as far as a change, I wouldn't, if there was a voting system, I think the tech tree would be preferably fine for the time being, as long as they had that vote system, because at least that does something for, at least, you know, at least you're getting your opinions out there for like, hey, we need to vote for this, you know, please, instead of just some random person teching fucking ting traps, you know what I mean? Like, we look
So-
at the right now
so-
where it's like you have the choice between, okay, so you can get gun nests, garrisons, and after that you have the choice of an APC or a tank trap. Tank trap doesn't lead anywhere in the progression tree. You just get that. You just get the tank traps. That's it. Or you can get APCs. Keep in mind it is cheaper to get tank traps, but what's the overall value of that? Like, you know what
So-
I mean? Like APCs are so fucking strong. I'll let you continue.
So here my issue with the tech tree. So we had devs for a while now talking about their wish to make the game more, give the player more power, in the sense that we should have the power to decide if we want to go for the fast kill, basically, like rush and try to storm the enemy, or play the long game, right? My problem with this, like, I like it, I love it, you know, like sacrificing basically long term to have a more aggressive start. I like that. I would go for that. Here's my
the thing
problem
is,
with that. Here's my problem with that. The aggressive start doesn't give you anything. It only makes you lose, because like there's no way for you to win early on. There's like the mechanics of the game don't allow you. You don't have the power to build the town halls up to win. Because like Wardens did that in the past, if you guys remember, right? We would have wars so short because we would just pull all efforts heads on, you know, for a few days, just steamroll the entire map. Now we are able to do that, right? Because we kind of did it this war, if you guys remember, right? We kind of wiped the map pretty quickly, right? But when it came to actually, you know, taking towns to keep them, you can't upgrade them. You don't have the parts or the progression, right, in the tech tree. So a thing I really want to be changed in the tech tree, if they are really wanting to, you know, to give you the choice for early aggression or late game, is for a way to basically be able to win early mid game, right? Because otherwise there's no point. Let's just drop the option to rush, in my opinion.
I mean, if supply lines get to, I mean, I see a lot of overextending these days. I get you completely, because it's always the same. Like, one side will rush at the start of the war, and it will take the middle maps from the other side, or close to it. I mean, there has been wars in the past. I remember what you were saying about. I remember fighting one specific war in which we, in less than, I think it was 8 hours, we were fighting in Upper Heartlands against the Colonials, like in the first day of the war. You know what I mean? Because we'd literally taken down garrison houses in the previous map with rifles. But when we got to that stage, it was like you get so far into the third layer of maps, and you're coming across garrison houses, and more fortified towns and stuff like that, and your supplies are getting thinner and thinner. I can understand. I can sort of understand the supply line issues and why that should impact a side, but I get what you're saying. Where if the tactic is fulfilled, you should be able to win through that tactic.
They brought up the idea. Like I know I saw it on the dev stream where they want players to have the ability to like sacrifice the late game to have an advantage early game. But the advantage you gain early game is pointless right now, right?
It's all about that late game, like oh hey buddies, log off so we can get tech boosts and get their tech drops go way faster, and then you have this real aggressive guys that can't really win because they literally can't do anything. I mean this is where Shrim's earlier where there should be advantage and disadvantages for things like yes sure you're going too aggressive and you're taking towns. It should hurt your you should hurt your technology by the more towns you own. That should be a general rule. But also there's still no that's still not a valid tactic in general. You can't even the game won't allow you to do that. You can do your best to try to
So
win
what?
early game.
So let's come up with a scenario. The Colonials have taken all of the Warden towns early in the first 2 days of the war, and the Wardens are in their port base. So what would be stopping the Colonials from winning in that circumstance? Would it be upgrading the towns?
Absolutely. You'd have the need to
The towns need to be level 3.
level 3,
So
right? The win conditions.
Yeah.
I'll pitch it
So-
off to you. Oh, continue. I'll say what I
Yeah.
gotta say.
So an easy way to fix that, for it to make a game winnable early war, to sacrifice end game for early game win, all they would really have to do is put another option at the start of the tech tree. So say for instance after medkits you can start teching into a level 2 town hall, but it's a lot of tech. It's 2,000, 3,000 tech to get into the level 2 town hall early on in the war. And then level 3 is maybe 5,000 tech or something ridiculous like that. But it still gives you that, whatever I don't know what the tech numbers are, what's a lot of tech and what's not. But just give it a really high tech number to unlock these town halls early in the war, and that would solve the entire issue.
And
So what you have to do is, for example, where when you asked what's stopping them from pretty much upgrading and winning, is I think you have to put in upgrade parts. I believe you have to
Yes.
upgrade both. Okay, so it's I'm not even I can guess 200. That's a rough total. I might be more
about 200, 150 if I'm not
200
mistaken
upgrade
per.
parts need to
per
go
town hall.
in each capital. So you gotta do that. But
So all you would need to do is add another advantage to unlocking these town halls early on. Maybe the upgrade is called level 2 town hall rush, and that means that when you unlock this for a high amount of tech, the upgrade parts are cut in half or something like that. So you don't need as many upgrade parts to upgrade a town hall to level 2 and then level 3 sort of thing. So it could be worked in that sort of way, to open up the possibility of early game rush victories and stuff like that.
The last thing I want to say on this is I really like it. I really believe in multiple ways to win, multiple goals basically.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
that's what I would really like to see, like having the option to dominate your enemy, like basically taking all the towns. In my mind, that's a insta win. You shouldn't if you control all the towns on all the maps, right? Like what are we talking about? It's a win.
Yep.
You can't say that's not a win, right? I'm not saying eliminate the way it's right now. Fair enough. That's a good way to do it. But add multiple ways. There's no one way to win a war, right? We all know this, and this is a war game, right? Give us more options. Is my opinion on
it
this.
feels like there's only one way. It's just if you're getting pounded, just accept it. Later on, you'll have tanks while the enemies has wagons. You know what I mean? It's that one war where we had a day or two like behind. Like the enemy had tanks and it
Yeah.
was just painful. Like
Yeah,
just
it
not
was.
having. I mean, thank God we're able to capture some of theirs.
Yeah.
But it's like not being able to make our own is just just sucks. And it's, it's like like the only benefit of capturing a town or capturing the middle regions is so that way when the enemy pushes you during the the off times is that they have to push through the middle towns before they get to you.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. Like the that circumstance you were talking about there with tanks with 2 tiers ahead. That I think we talked about that in a previous video as well. That I mean, the only thing I like about that is there's a certain satisfaction I get by killing a colonial tank with a colonial tank. That was I'll always remember that. But I think we've talked for long enough. Has anybody got anything else to say?
Nah, probably for next time. Keep the suspense going.
It's a nice end.
Keep the one German viewer that likes to listen.
Yeah.
In his car.
Oh, you can't forget about that. As far as that, I mean,
Well,
everyone-
are you gonna say it this time?
say what?
You know what?
How to cook a good grenade? That's
The recipe.
Fry
We
it.
have
Fry it up.
got people mailing me. People
This
mailing me
time-
constantly
this
about
time.
it.
people. You can boil your grenades. Just remember to pull the pin and just drop it down, let it simmer, put the lid on top of the pot. Oof, it'll be
Bit
good.
of seasoning.
A little bit of salt. Remember, every time you cook a grenade, there's always salt involved.
God knows there's enough to go around. So.
Yeah, just briefly, guys, as well. If you have any armored car footage, make sure you send it into Razor, and we'll feature it in the next video. Catch you later.
Please do. See you guys.
Stay out of your foxholes, you cowards.